Cooper Lutkenhaus is only 17 years old, and he is still in high school. But he just did something that shocked the entire track and field world. At the 2026 USATF Indoor Championships, he raced against Olympians and professional runners and somehow beat all of them. How did a teenager become one of the fastest 800-meter runners in the world? For most people watching, Lutkenhaus was still a rising junior athlete whose biggest headlines had come from dominating high school races. He had shown flashes of incredible potential throughout the season, but stepping onto the track at a national championship against seasoned professionals was supposed to be a learning experience. Instead, it turned into one of the most shocking performances the sport has seen in years. The men's 800 meters has always been one of the most tactical and physically demanding races in track and field. It requires a rare combination of speed, endurance, patience, and race intelligence. Many of the runners in this final had spent nearly a decade developing those skills at the professional level. They had competed in world championships, Olympic trials, and international meets around the globe. Lutkenhaus, on the other hand, had only recently begun attracting national attention. He was still balancing high school classes with intense training sessions. His competitors had sponsorship deals, professional coaching staffs, and years of elite competition behind them. On paper, this race looked like a moment where the teenager would simply gain valuable experience. But the moment the runners stepped onto the track, it was clear that Lutkenhaus was not intimidated. The stadium lights reflected off the indoor track as the athletes walked toward their starting positions. When the starting gun fired, the runners exploded forward. In the opening seconds, the field stayed tightly packed as expected in a championship 800-meter race. The early pace was controlled, with several experienced runners positioning themselves near the front. Lutkenhaus stayed calm. Instead of trying to lead immediately, he tucked himself into a smart position within the group. This was a critical moment in the race. Young athletes often make the mistake of going out too fast when they compete against professionals. They burn too much energy early and fade before the finish. But Lutkenhaus ran with maturity beyond his years. Through the first lap, he remained relaxed. His stride looked smooth and efficient. While others jostled for position, he stayed composed and patient, waiting for the right moment to move. The bell rang to signal the final lap, and the pace immediately intensified. This is the point in an 800-meter race where everything changes. The tactical phase ends, and the race becomes a brutal test of speed and endurance. The runners who can accelerate while exhausted are the ones who usually win. Several experienced athletes began to push forward, trying to break the field apart. The tempo increased dramatically as the pack stretched across the track, but Lutkenhaus was still there. In fact, he looked stronger than many of the veterans around him. With about 200 meters remaining, the race reached its most critical moment. This is where champions separate themselves from the rest of the field. Lutkenhaus made his move. He surged forward with an explosive burst of speed that caught several runners by surprise. In a matter of seconds, he shifted from being part of the pack to taking control of the race. The crowd began to react. Spectators realized that the teenager was not just competing, he was actually leading the race against some of the best middle-distance runners in the country. The final straightaway became a moment that fans would remember for years. Lutkenhaus continued accelerating, his stride powerful and determined. Behind him, experienced professionals tried to respond, but none of them could match the speed he produced in those final meters. The finish line approached quickly. When Lutkenhaus crossed it, the clock stopped at 1:46.68. For a moment, there was disbelief inside the arena. Then the reaction erupted. The 17-year-old high school runner had just won the national championship. Defeating a field filled with Olympians and elite professionals was already extraordinary, but the time made the performance even more remarkable. His mark of 1:46.68 immediately placed him among the fastest 800-meter runners in the world this season. The significance of this achievement cannot be overstated. The 800 meters is traditionally dominated by athletes in their early to late 20s. It is a distance that requires years of physical development and tactical experience. Most runners spend a long time progressing through collegiate competition before reaching the professional level. For a high school athlete to defeat seasoned professionals in a national championship final is extremely rare. Track and field experts quickly began discussing the performance. Analysts pointed out how composed Lutkenhaus looked throughout the race. He did not panic when the pace increased. He did not waste energy fighting for position unnecessarily. Instead, he executed a strategy that many experienced runners struggle to perfect. That level of race intelligence at such a young age is what truly impressed observers. Another reason the victory shocked the track world was the strength of the field he defeated. The 2026 national championship lineup included athletes who had competed on Olympic teams and runners who had spent years on the international circuit. These were competitors accustomed to winning major races. Yet on this night, they were chasing a teenager. Many veteran runners admitted after the race that they had underestimated Lutkenhaus. Some had expected him to be competitive, but few believed he could actually win the title. His finishing kick proved otherwise. The performance also raised an exciting question for the future of American middle-distance running. The United States has produced many outstanding 800-meter runners over the years, but a breakthrough performance by such a young athlete suggests that the next generation may be arriving sooner than expected. Lutkenhaus now finds himself at the center of that conversation. His victory immediately attracted attention from fans, media, and coaches across the sport. Social media filled with clips of his final surge toward the finish line. Track enthusiasts around the world began analyzing his race and discussing what it might mean for the future. One reason the excitement is so strong is that his time was not just impressive for a teenager, it was competitive at the global level. A 1:46.68 performance places him among the fastest athletes in the world this year in the 800 meters. That means he is not simply a promising junior runner. He is already capable of competing with elite professionals internationally. For a 17-year-old, that is an astonishing achievement. Of course, this moment also represents the beginning of a new challenge. With his national title victory, expectations around Lutkenhaus will change dramatically. Opponents will now see him as a serious threat in every race he enters. Media attention will increase. Fans will follow his progress closely. Every performance will be analyzed. Handling that pressure will require maturity and focus. But if his race at the national championships is any indication, Lutkenhaus may already possess the mindset needed to handle it. His calm and confident approach in such a high-pressure environment suggests that he understands how to stay focused on the race itself rather than the surrounding hype. That quality is often what separates good athletes from great ones. Another exciting aspect of his rise is the amount of development still ahead of him. Most middle-distance runners reach their physical peak several years after finishing high school. Strength, endurance, and racing experience typically improve throughout the early 20s. That means Lutkenhaus could become even faster and more dominant in the coming years. Coaches and analysts have already begun speculating about what his future might look like. Some believe he could become one of the leading figures in American middle-distance running. Others wonder how quickly he might transition into international championships and professional competition. One thing is clear. His victory at the 2026 USATF Indoor Championships has changed the conversation around him completely. Instead of being viewed as a promising junior athlete, he is now seen as a legitimate contender against some of the best runners in the world. For fans of track and field, moments like this are special because they reveal the arrival of a new star. The sport has always been defined by athletes who rise suddenly and challenge expectations. Lutkenhaus has now placed himself firmly in that tradition.